So now that we know how to open and edit things in the spectral view and how to get rid of background noise and background sound, it is actually really easy to delete unwanted sounds because we know how to view them, we know how to select them, and we know how to delete them. But I'm going to show you just a little bit more in depth with different types of sound and not the way we used before, which was the effects panel with the noise reduction and so on. I'm going to bring in this file into our present multi-track file. I'm going to make it go all the way to the beginning and double click on it to go inside. Now if you notice, now this is just a spectral view and the waveform, but one thing I want you to realize is that, well, first of all, let's just listen to the file so we can identify where the hums and clicks and pops are. That's 1. So 2 and 3, they're right there. They're pretty easy to see just because the decibel level of the audio wave is fairly constant with the exception of those clicks. So we see them spike all the way up and even clip. What I mean by clipping is that they are leaving the dynamic range that this sound wave is able to show us or afford. Now you also see, however, if I place this cursor right over this line, you see that right over here it gets into that red portion right at the bottom of the screen, and you can get rid of this by simply clicking on it. But what you want to do is decrease the overall volume of your file so that it never gets that loud, because that is information that is now lost. But I digress. Going back into the topic at hand, getting rid of the clicks and pops. Now that we have identified them, you could argue that you could simply click on one of those, make a selection by clicking and dragging, and then just delete it, right? But what is Audition telling us? Well, if you delete that, you're no longer deleting, or rather, you're not only deleting that pop or that click, you're also deleting everything behind that sound. So in other words, our music, our speaker, our effects, anything that we have in that track. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit cancel and then just make this change in the spectral view. Now we know that this is click 1, click 2, and click 3, so I'm gonna go ahead and do the first one by zooming all the way in, just so I can make a more precise selection. All of these tools right here allow you to make selections. The marquee tool, the lasso tool, allows you to make a more organic selection. For this example, I'm just going to go ahead and use, perhaps the marquee tool will be good enough, just so I can make a rough selection. So I'm going to select around the sound that I do not want anymore, and I could either hit delete, which gets rid of it. I'm gonna go and undo, or I could decrease the volume, which will also get rid of it, but it will allow us to do a more control change. So it allows us to make it in increments, if you will. I'm just gonna go ahead and delete for this purpose. Back up all the way to the beginning and hit play. What's happening right now is that I have a selection and I have my looping button clicked on. So I'm just going to undo my selection, go all the way to the back. So if you notice, it got rid of that click. Now it didn't do 100% of what I wanted it to do, but that's partially my fault because I actually, if I zoom in, you can see that there are edges on the left and the right of the selection I made, as well as a really low tone over here that I miss. So you could go back in there, get the lasso tool, and just delete that individually. The same can be said for the other two clicks, and depending on the type of click or hum or sound that you want to get rid of, in this case it's a very hard edge vertical line, but it may be that the selection may be more like a circle, If you have cell phone rings, they typically tend to stay within the same frequency, so they'll probably be mostly a rectangular horizontal line. Uh, you'll see them as you experiment with them. So feel free to play along. What I would suggest you guys do is get a couple of sounds with clicks in them, maybe record yourself and have your cell phone ring and try to get rid of that, just to do a couple of exercises.